The National Repository for Low-Level Radioactive Waste has been overturned. The site decision overturned, with the federal court saying Indigenous groups had not been properly consulted. Now, this is a mess. The court ruling overturned the site decision that was made by the former Coalition Resources Minister, Keith Pitt, back when they were in government. He joins me now from Melbourne as well. Thanks for joining us, Keith. Did you get that decision wrong?
Well, not in my view, Chris, absolutely not. But look, the court has made a decision, and I think the important pieces here are just the facts, and the facts are these. The country needs this facility. And in fact, it gets even more desperate the closer we get to 2030, when potentially you'll run out of space for the storage of low-level radioactive waste, which is predominantly produced from nuclear medicine. We're talking about disposable gloves and gowns and needles and all those sorts of things. I think that's more than 80% of what will go there. The land itself, it's over 500 acres. It's a wheat farm. It's been used for agriculture for decades. There is no native title on that land right now, and there hasn't been. And the Bangala people, look, they're entitled to their view, but they have currently 34,000 square kilometres, I'm told, of land in South Australia that has native title, but not this block. And we shouldn't forget, it'll be admin buildings, sheds, storage racks, and facilities. So the footprint itself for those facilities are very, very small compared to the 500-acre lot and compared to the entire state of South Australia. Now, I'm very disappointed for the people of Kimba. 6 years they've worked their way through this. Mate, how much more consultation do you need than 6 years? Well, there's no community that knows more about low-level radioactive waste than Kimba.
Well, that's what's extraordinary, right? We all know, and everybody would agree, the country badly needs this facility. There have been previous attempts to get it underway, and there's always this not in my backyard attitude, and it's always fallen over. Politicians have been weak, and so have some local states and communities. Finally, you get a community that's mature about this and accepts it, because there's going to be some jobs and some spin-offs that help them. But then, incredibly, I'm certain one of the reasons you chose this site was it's freehold land. It's a wheat farm. You wouldn't think you'd have to deal with things like native title. There is no native title. Yet even then, at the last minute, an Indigenous claim comes up just to prevent this. No, there's no other outcome. It'll be a wheat farm now instead of a waste dump.
Well, there'd been previous court action brought by the Bangala people, which the courts had rejected, and on appeal from memory. And, mate, it's been 46 years, the search to site this facility.
Good Lord.
This iteration's taken more than 6. Started with more than 20 sites, narrowed down eventually to 3. Ran through all of the processes, including talking to the local people, having a vote from those who are on the roll locally, getting more than 60% support. I mean, this has been a tough road for them. The country needs the facility. They desperately need it. Now, this now sits with the Labor Party. Firstly, they need to decide if this is something they want to do, and they should. Well, there shouldn't be more delays. There are ways.
Should they appeal this decision? Is that the first thing they should do, is just appeal this decision, or should they try and override it with legislation?
Well, I'm sure my former department and the current Minister for Resources are reviewing the reasons for decision and whether there's avenues for appeal. And I hope there is, because where's the national interest in these decisions? Is the court saying that every single decision of government has to be approved by an Aboriginal group, even though they don't have native title on that piece of land? Of course the department consulted with them. Of course they did it over a long period of time. They didn't agree, as they're entitled to. But the reality is governments have to act in the national interest. I took a decision based on all of those processes. My view was it was the right one. The court obviously has had a different view. But we need to get going. The advice I had at the time was 2030 is pretty much the deadline for when we'll run out of storage space at Lucas Heights. And it's really not that big a thing. They're sheds with storage containers in them, with admin in a community that wants them.
Yeah, it is extraordinary. My understanding of the decision is not that it was wrong, just that there wasn't enough consultation within Indigenous groups, and it makes you wonder whether we can ever get anything done in this country. Thanks so much for joining us, Keith. I appreciate it.